Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I am your supreme leader, Girafe, alongside the best maroons found family this side of SETI Alpha 5.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Yes! My imaginary empire will come! I'm joined by my Ivan these last weeks. Hawk, who has been prepping his best meme. I'm not saying it's aliens, but aliens. And MZ, who is the only officer I would like with me for any first contact, anytime, any day. How are you guys doing?
Doing okay?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good.
Surviving, not thriving. It's been the mood for me. Yeah. I also I'm going down with a bad case of I got my vaccines yesterday, so I'm trying to stay together. It's hard, but yeah. This week we're here to review the 5th episode, already halfway of Star Trek. imagination's limit. In this episode, we finally reach an explosive midpoint. As Dr. Lear's tense conversation with Captain Sulu questions whether monsters are born or made, the narrative jumps back to Ceti Alpha 5, where the planet, Ceti Alpha 6, explodes, finally, shattering the fragile world Khan built. Amid the chaos, a mysterious ship appears, testing Khan's leadership and forcing the Augment to confront their instinct between war and wonder. Marla emerges yet again as a voice of empathy, clashing with Khan's pride. And I'm not gonna say the rest because we're gonna talk about this later. It's like the big thing in this episode. But before talking about all that, MC, we need to thank our amazing patron collective at the Ready Room level and above.
Thanks to Simon Sager, Jeff Reeve, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Ken Ngui, Tatako Naguma, Fernanda Nogales, SMK, Colin Davidson, Shatterhand 2049, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Maggie Light, Wayne Ritz, Scott of Arc, Sean, Jay Howard, Mehalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Joshua Lewis, Tara Poland, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Adam Sanders, Amy the Magic Snail, Aaron W., Carl N. Goalie, Michael Kwan, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, Sedano 317, Puka Hair, 3 Fries Short, Kate Tip, Tripping the Read Alert over a Pineapple, Sean Manning, Asher at the Bat, Chris Waterman, RHCB, Martin Simpson, Norman Buchwald, David Prime Hildebrand, Taryn J. Robinson, Rob Grinner, Eric the Red, Trouble, Jamie Roberts, Honeyberry, Paul Taylor Pitt, Brett Jones, Michelle P., Martin Walker, 82, Ms. Alyssa Bartell, Jesse Robbins, Kim, Chris Fenoglio, Felix Dax, Kelly McKinnon, Chief Petty Officer Snuggles, and Lisa Moore.
And of course, a big thanks to our Badmiral, our EPs who, see, I'm not doing a good job. It's still written, insert something can related on the outline.
They lead us to water.
Who lead us to water. Simon Steger, Chris Waterman, Tara Poland, Brett Jones, Dana, Matt Harker, Jim McMahon, Maggie Light, and Fev. Thank you. We will survive the apocalypse. Thanks to you. We hope. Do we have any news? I know MC did something cool today.
I did. So Julian and I sat down with David Mack to talk about his brand new Strange New Worlds book, Ring of Fire, and it is available to patrons, and everyone it's going to be available on Tuesday. And related to what we're talking about today, David Mack is one of the people who's working on the Con audio drama, which we touched on very briefly, but I think somebody else is going to be talking to him.
Yeah, we're trying to schedule.
Working things out, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an elusive giraffe lately. It's my fault. But yeah,
the questing beast.
Yeah, exactly. We also have a new episode of Alternative Space who aired yesterday with Dr. Tiffany Chow, where I speak with him everything related brain, memory, dementia in Star Trek, and also in her research. We talk about the episode TNG Sarek a lot. Yeah. If you want to listen to that episode, I will be in San Francisco October 18th for the Wild Hunt Ball. So if you're around, come say hi. It's a very cool event by Never Tame Production. If you want, there's still tickets available. Do we have anything else, friends?
I think that's it.
Oh, that's it. Oh, it's Halloween soon. We're all too busy.
Yeah.
All too busy. Okay, it's time for our strange new loop. I imagine people who have not listened to that podcast before and are like, what are they doing? What is this thing?
Somebody else needs to get a soundboard.
Yeah, exactly. I have no room. I'm like literally have like that much room on my table. I have like bunch of things everywhere, like gloves, who knows. I cannot have a soundboard. So the strange new loop for today. which Star Trek alien species would you want to have, fall from the sky if you were married in an inhospitable planet?
Oof.
Yeah, I know. I tried to find an answer too, and I was like, they all have an issue.
Yeah.
Like the Romulans will just want to take over whatever you're doing.
Yeah, but you know that Romulans would have so many redundant system that they would be kind of fine in a way.
Yeah.
They'd work their way out of there.
Yeah,
and if you're good enough, they may take you with them or just leave you there. But you don't know. Most likely to get out of the planet, Romulans.
I mean, I was thinking, this might not work out well for me, but obviously the cube would, it's not a problem for them. Any of those, species that are we're looking down on humanity and making sure, the Organians.
Yeah, I was gonna say Organians.
I was thinking the Borg, it's like, but more when they get cut off from the mothership and the drones and that, right? They kind of gain back that independence, and as far as being able to survive, with their nanotechnology, they can build stuff very easily.
So basically, you want to end up in the beginning of iBorg. With,
yes, exactly.
That's kind of a risky question. I can when I think that you said the Romulans would be tricky, and you're like the Borg.
I know.
Yeah,
that one is a balancing act. There's advantages and then huge disadvantages.
Yeah.
Nobody even thinks human.
Kug in the chat says, "Do Ryzens run Ubers?" Yeah, intergalactic Uber, that'd be the best, right? You just need to be able to call them.
That'd be a good novel.
It's funny, nobody said the Vulcans.
I had thought of it because obviously they're from a desert planet, and I'm happy to just have a hot Vulcan around. But I don't know. I thought a more practical answer would be an omnipotent species.
Yeah.
And I think that the Vulcans would appreciate me going with the practical, logical answer.
I think that if I'm married on a desert planet, the last thing I want is a guy telling me something about logic.
That is true. And also, they'd be so set because they're from a desert planet. They would just be like, oh, go fuck yourself because, you've got, evolution on your side.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't think I'd feel safe. I don't think I'd feel heard. Okay. Any other answers in the chat? No, but I like the idea of Ryzens coming to help you. That would be good. Okay, let's go. Let's review episode 5 of Star Trek Con, Imagination's Limit. I suppose we have maybe a music. I really like the music in Khan.
It's very
good. Everything emphasizes each scene perfectly.
Yeah. So this episode starts with Dr. Lear having a meeting of the minds, aka being summoned by Captain Sulu in his quarters. Mm-hmm. Anybody else was shocked by that? I was like, quarters? Why not the ready room? That's so weird. I would not summon I don't know, somebody I work with to my quarters. This is weird. Anyway, I was a little bit disturbed by that. And Dr. Rosalind Lear doesn't like that either. And they are having a philosophical and generational clash about the nature of monstrosity. Are monsters born or made through pain? The whole question here is that Dr. Lear wants to know if the Enterprise knew that SETI Alpha 6 was going to explode, and Sulu relies on Spock for moral grounding, highlighting the Federation tendency to intellectualize evil while failing again to confront its roots. It's a theme we've seen in Star Trek lately, yeah? The source of evil. What did you think of this Lear Sulu conversation? I call it confrontation, but conversation.
For the order tonight, you got me listening.
Oh yeah, let's do MC and Hawk.
Yeah.
Hawk, you've been first too late. Too often. MC.
So for this conversation, this an aggressive conversation, let's put it like that, because it is very heated. I think that I'm sorry, I completely my brain just like got messed up because Hawk was supposed to go first.
Sorry.
There has been this interesting interplay of what Lear thinks versus what Sulu thinks. And I mean, Sulu, of course, and he points it out, he has firsthand interactions with Khan, which does give him a truthful background, but it also gives him a very biased one, because you cannot, and we've mentioned it before, how history is not something that you can really look at while it's going on, and even like several years afterwards. It's only like long after where you can kind of put all of the pieces together that you can actually get a true story. And Sulu is somebody who is right in the middle of it. Of course, he's not going to be unbiased about it, because I know Spock came back, but he lost a very good friend. And, his other friend, lost his nephew. So there was a lot of stuff that happened between him and Khan. So he is not a unbiased. But like this whole idea of, are monsters born or are they made? All of this kind of reminds me of I was going to say Lower Decks, but it's not Lower Decks. It's Strange New Worlds. In those old scientists, when you have the Enterprise crew all being against the Orions, and then you have Boimler, who's just like, you can't really say stuff like that about the Orions. And we see this actually in earlier seasons of TOS and Strange New Worlds and Discovery. The amount of bias that there is against species, against people, that is not something that is reflective in later centuries. And part of that does come from the fact that all of that later stuff was just later in our own time period. The 80s looks a lot different than the 60s, but certainly they're keeping that up with the stuff that's coming out now. So I think what they're just establishing is that there was a very kind of aggressive time in Starfleet where, I don't want to say that they're bad people, but, it's
Well, I think like the monster point is kind of weird. We can talk about this more in depth after. Hawk, what do you think?
You raise a lot of good points, MC, and then this really plays into the whole thing about generations and the way that every generation after is supposed to do a little bit better than the one before, right? And so this natural kind of confrontation comes up between Lear and Sulu and that, because they're vastly different generations. She's taking it from a really measured, unbiased stance as a historian, and there's a lot of evidence to back up her arguments in that, especially when she talks about like the augments and the ways the Federation keeps track of even the bloodlines, so that there isn't even a chance that they can reappear into the Federation. Sulu obviously has his point of view in that, and it's like, and again, it's fair, twice he's encountered Khan, and both times that, the Khan has tried to take over the Enterprise, and, basically, they've never been good interactions. But there is a point to it. She's looking for the recipe of what makes a monster, and that he had an excellent point. He's like, the main ingredient is pain, unresolved, and how did he put it? Unresolved, and basically, I can't remember, but it's a very good point. We talk about, when they talk about Khan in terms of being a psycho and, genocidal monster and that, there was a lot of pain in that formation, right? Especially considering the augments were just basically science experiments, him especially, and I read a lot about serial killers and that, and it's like it's always back. It's always in the formation of. It's always in the childhood, right? You take a certain type of child, particularly one. There was this one guy I always reference, Richard Kuklinski. He was like a mob enforcer. Killed a lot of people. But the psychiatrist sat down and did an interview with him and talked about his childhood, and his childhood was just abysmal. Beatings from both parents. Just nonstop, constant. But also his physiology played a little bit into it because he was identified by the psychiatrist as a type A, and given the augments were designed to be driven and intellectually superior, physically superior, and that you raise that kind of person, like a type A personality, and that with, nothing but abuse and no love, trust, and that, this is what you get.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. Like what Sulu said about like monsters are made from pain. Actually, I didn't like that at all because there's so many people who suffer. There's so many people who go through horrible, horrible things. And I mean, George Takei himself is a survivor of terrible things, and is not a monster.
No, of course not. But at the same time, I mean, like, it's from early childhood on, and it's not a guarantee. It's only an ingredient in the recipe, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's entirely pain, but I mean, certainly the way Khan was raised does contribute to who he is, because Khan was raised to believe he was better than everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the main problem with Khan, is the ideology that was like put into him. It is willful ignorance of everything else that is better and superior. And it's interesting because when Sulu said like, oh, monsters are made through pain, are made of pain, I was like, no, they're not. Like, no, they're not. Like, there are people who have extraordinary, like, blessed childhood, grow up in money, have everything they want, but are brainwashed into having no empathy. And they are monsters, too. And I'm just like, I think it's too easy for Sulu to say that. To be like, oh, they suffered, then they're monsters. And I'm like, but then we need to, like, ask the question about the Federation total detachment from the augment suffering is kind of a moral blindness. If you have the idea, the main idea that pain will create monster, and then you choose to keep a whole category of people in that pain, knowing that some of them have already become monsters before that, why would you do that? And that's what happened to the Illyrians. That's what happened to the augments. And we see it even in Strange New World. We see it all the way to DS9. And this conversation was so interesting to me because for me, Sulu has totally drank the Kool-Aid of the Federation and the Kool-Aid that they've been told about the augments. And then he saw augments doing bad thing, and it reinforced his own like narrative of like augments are evil people. See, this is an augment that did something evil. That's why. And I'm just like, wow. This is a lot to unpack in here. And I actually really like that it was Sulu that said that, because he's such a, beloved and positive and like a character that comes with, a lot of respect. And I'm like, his refusal to even accept that Spock may have made a mistake is insane. And also he's unable to even think that maybe there was no malice. Maybe they just fucked up. They didn't do their homework. They went too fast.
And funnily enough, I think Spock would be like the first person to say I could have made a mistake.
Sure, absolutely. But then again, like, this is a great kind of twist to put into it, in that, she's going to be reviewing those sensor logs and that to look for anything out of the ordinary, right? And I have a feeling that the new visitors that showed up on the planet, that might offer something too if they can find their sensor logs, right?
I mean, I was thinking that they probably have something to do with it. Like, I mean, like, no, there's nothing to say that SETI Alpha 6.
My idea too.
Yeah, that SETI Alpha 6 was a, natural occurrence. Like, maybe there wasn't anything that Spock could have found because there wasn't anything. I'm not saying it was aliens, but aliens.
Do you think that we can draw a line between Khan's pain and suffering and his monstrosity, or does that risk excusing him, MC?
So, I have been thinking about this, and I don't like this because I do actually agree with you that the whole, pain equals monstrosity is a very simplistic thing. And certainly we know from Wrath of Khan that Marla is dead by the time of Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And now we've got pregnant Marla. So I am smelling the air. It's kind of like Strange New World Season 3, where it's like the dead wife energy.
Dead wife energy, yeah.
And so I'm kind of feeling like we're gonna get a fridged Marla, so that he's going to end up going, no, let me be evil.
I will believe that when I see a body. Talk. What do you think?
So again, we see examples of augments in this society, and that obviously are not as affected the way Khan is, and that like Paulo, great example. Richter was one before. Yeah. It's like it's not a guarantee. You can't dismiss like how what went into the formation of them, and that like I said, sometimes it's a gamble. There is no guarantee about like how to raise a successful child to a successful adult. Again, there's this expression about how you can abhor, you can basically feel empathy for the child in that went through suffering in that, but you can also abhor the monster that they become later in life.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think for me, like that whole conversation was also very The One Who Walks Away from Omelas. I don't know if everybody has read that book by Le Guin, and I think there's this question of like, oh yeah, we know there's suffering. Yeah. We know there's something terrible, terribly bad, and we need to like keep these people in like that terrible, terrible suffering and locked in that room because it helps us leave that utopia. And I think that's very what's going on with the Federation and the augments. Like, yeah, we're gonna do some side racism.
It's like with any administration and that it's like the problems from the past and that become the problems of their time. And it's either they can choose to sweep it under the rug, or they can choose to deal with it and that. And obviously, right now with this with Sulu and that generation, they don't want to deal with it and that, because with Sulu and that he's trying to protect Kirk's reputation.
Yeah, which is kind of insane also. Like, my man, like, Kirk did some crazy things. It's okay. Maybe he messed up. Yeah. MC, anything to add? We're going, like, random orders.
It's totally cool. No, I get it. And I'm just wondering, it's like, if Kirk were still alive, how would Kirk be reacting to all of this? And I don't know, actually. I'm just thinking about the more kind of introspective Kirk from like later on. I actually think he might be okay with everything that Lyra is doing, because well, one, Khan's dead. He can't actually hurt anybody now, and there is kind of like this need to kind of understand where he's coming from. But meanwhile, he's of course been lionized because he died tragically and heroically, and Sulu's trying to protect Kirk in a way that he doesn't need to be protected. And And like I said, Spock would probably say, it's like, I might have screwed up. Kirk would probably say, it's like, I probably shouldn't have done this. I cannot see a world where Kirk has not spent like the last 20 years or whatever thinking about what happened with Khan and being like,
absolutely.
Yeah,
did not make the right
all the
choice.
events surrounding it kind of snowballed in that with his life, and that he was introduced to his son David, and that because of the whole situation with Khan and that and then even after Khan's death, and that same situation ended up taking his son away from him.
Yeah. Well, now that this conversation is over with Dr. Liren Sulu, we enter the thick of the subject. Aha! Finally, what we've been waiting for like 4 episodes happened. The planet explodes. We knew it was coming, and it has finally come. We know that this will literally reshape everything around the new colony. We've grown attached. I don't know you, but I've grown attached to the survivors, and it's this tragic thing where they're gonna die, but no, I don't want them to die.
I know.
So what did you feel when the planet exploded? What was your reaction to the explosion of SETI Alpha 6, MC?
Well, SETI Alpha 5 has not been a safe place, even though it was fairly nice. There have been a lot of problems that have happened. So the first couple of episodes we have had this man versus wild thing going on, and it's going to get even worse from here on out. We absolutely know that because we know what happens in Wrath of Khan. The planet is absolutely devastated. And of course, I already mentioned Marla, but we have several people who are pregnant. And all I can think about is how in Wrath of Khan, it's not like they have any kids around. So there's going to be a lot of really dark stuff that's going to be coming, and I can just feel it in the pit of my stomach. And I do care about these people, and I'm shocked by that because I am not somebody who watched Wrath of Khan and is just geez, those augments, are really, kind of neat and misunderstood people. I was always just cool motive, still genocide with Khan. But they have been building him up very well and making him quite well-rounded. The fact that he's Naveen Andrews probably doesn't hurt. But I don't know. I mean, he was Benedict Cumberbatch at one time, and that did nothing for me. So.
I know. We're not going to talk about this. This is still information. This is old canon. We put it in a box and we threw it away. Hawk, what did you feel when the planet exploded? What was your feelings?
The odd thing is that I was surprised it came in episode 5. I was expecting it to come later on in the series and that, but then I started thinking about it. They were 4 months in last episode, and this episode starts with that Marla and Khan, just little tickle time in bed and that while she's trying to get him to make a recording for posterity, and then you realize, it's time's up. That 6-month period was definitely is well over by now. It was fantastic, the reactions of everybody in that, especially Khan. No, the 2 no's he lets out. One is that defiant no, and then the other one is that no, oh my God. I thought it was brilliantly played out in that, and the fact that on top of that, they throw in another another plot point on top of it while all this is going on.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the ship.
Yeah, we're talking about the ship, but
nobody cares about SETI Alpha 6 exploding.
And I love how technical they get with it, especially with this is one of the things we love these characters because they give them tons of time for exposition and to get to know them. And Paulo, we get to know a lot about him. He has tons in this episode and that, and he's such a useful crewman to have down there, and because he correctly evaluates the situation. 17 pieces, 2 of which are as big as Iran, are heading for that planet. Oh.
Yeah, and it's funny because we knew it was going to happen, but I like the fact that Paulo seems to say that is not normal, that it happened so fast.
Sure, even Khan realizes that, planets do not just explode, and they're all searching for that answer that they don't have the technology to verify.
I was really sad. I don't want them to die. I know they're gonna die. I know they're gonna be blown up by Kirk ultimately. To go back to it, but I thought that moment was really good because I've been expecting it, and I thought it delivered. I found the sound design was great. I found there was a good moment for it to happen because I think I needed 4 episodes to know which augment was who, to also get attached to the characters, understand their like relationship. I like everybody except fucking Ivan.
I get that. Feel that.
Do either of you ever get confused between when Ursula's speaking and when Marla's speaking?
No, because Ursula has an accent.
I don't detect much of an accent. Mado's the one with the accent, right?
Really?
Yeah, Mado's the one with the Slavic accent. Ursula's the one. She sounds. The actress who does her sounds an awful lot like Brenda Schmidt.
I don't know. I like everybody except Ivan. That will be my final word on this. Ivan can die. I hope Ivan gets eaten by something.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's one of the ones that's around in Wrath of Khan. So I think you're gonna have.
I hope his death is gonna be terrible, horrible, and very cathartic for me because I don't like Ivan. MC, anything to add on the explosion of the planet?
No, I mean just that it was like definitely like we had to have it. I think at this point, like I know that Hawk said that he thought it was going to be later, but I think like the midpoint is the exact right place to put it because you do need like the first 4 episodes to get to know everybody and empathize with them, but then you need to spend like the next 4 actually showing the fall of everything, because this is where Lear is actually going to find out what makes the measure of who Khan is. Because if you actually think about it, Khan in Space Seed is very different than Khan in Wrath of Khan. Like in Space Seed, like he was kind of like a badass, but he was just a random character. Wrath of Khan could have been done with any surviving bad guy from TOS, but they chose to use Khan, and because of that, he has now become one of the most iconic bad guys in all of science fiction cinema. And it's going to be in the next 4 episodes that we're going to find out how he goes from being like this very proud guy who's trying to lead his people to a guy who is just led by vengeance, because he is not like the proud warrior or even the proud leader in Wrath of Khan. He is just a vehicle of vengeance against Kirk.
Yeah. Hawk, anything to add on the explosion?
That's a pretty good summary in that. I mean, every great hero needs a great villain in that, but I love that we're getting to see the process of how, Khan becomes, from the proud leader in that to just as an engine of vengeance, as MC said.
It's finally the time to talk about it. Is it a bird? Is it a man? Is it a piece of planet? No, it is a ship. It's aliens. Oh. I did not see this coming at all.
Nope.
No.
0. The arrival of a mysterious ship is just thrilling. This is the first true contact for the augments. Marla's excitement contrasts sharply with the others' paranoia and violence. It's a reminder that Khan's people were genetically engineered for domination, not diplomacy, apparently. So what was your first thought when, they realized it's a ship? Survivors, saviors, enemy. What did you think it was, MC?
I had really no clue. I thought, well, no, that's not true. I didn't have no clue. I had two possibilities. One, that they came from SETI Alpha 6 and that they were, escaping, Superman-like. It's funny the draft mentioned that. And then the other is the one that I'm sticking with. I think that they are responsible for the destruction of SETI Alpha 6. I do not know why. I don't know if it was intentional, but I think they have done something that caused them to destroy SETI Alpha 6. I don't really know what that means. I'm going to guess that they're probably not going to survive. I do think that Khan and everybody's going to take them out, especially because, they're not in the Wrath of Khan. So I don't think that they're going to be able to escape. But, we'll see what's going to happen. I thought it was interesting. That is like the main thing. It's like, it feels like something that should have happened. I didn't think it was going to, but as soon as it happened, I'm like, okay, this is a really good development, and I'm glad that they went here.
Yeah.
Hawk, what did you think of the ship?
It was.
I think it was.
Again, I was like, wow. It was that utter confusion that they would throw in the huge event, that event we're all waiting for, the explosion of SETI Alpha 6 and that, and then like immediately throw in like another, alien race into this, intruders almost, others, but it makes sense because, it's like with, it's what you naturally will want, when you're dealing with a drama centered around isolation and like, a certain, like a tribe of people and that, you throw in like another, something, in other, like in Lost, and that to add to the conflict. And I'm so glad they did, because like, the exposition around like what to do about it was like, one of the most fascinating parts of this episode, especially like when, you see the different perspectives and that from Ivan and Ursula, and that their first perspective is we need to kill them. Yeah, it's like, well, I don't mean threaten, I mean kill. And on the other side of that, Marla, and trying to bring her Federation experience, and that, like, I have a perspective on this that you don't understand, and that I've made first contact. Violence is not the first option we need to have. That we need to know exactly who they are, what they could possibly offer to help, because right now they do need help. It was a great way of expanding not just the story but the characters and their reactions to this new stimulus.
Honestly, I was convinced that it would be a Federation ship and that they had actually left somebody to watch them to make sure they would not get away or something like this, like how paranoid the Federation is about Augment, and I was like, watch the Federation ship.
Fed into Khan's paranoia too, right?
Yeah, but that would also explain why they wanted the record sealed so bad.
Oh, yeah.
And not having Dr. Leah like dig into this is that there were actually somebody watching them and they knew what happened. But no, I think it's a good idea. But
yeah.
But I was really excited that it was also aliens because it pushes. It's a very interesting way to push the story into something that we did not expect and we don't know from canon. And I'm here for it. Because it's going to be kind of a bottle story inside of everything that will happen in 20 years of like whatever happened on SETI Alpha 5. But I love this because I feel that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the reactions between what Khan's first reaction is and what Marla's first reaction is everything you need to know about Star Trek, right? I mean, right now, in 2025, every single first contact we had with other humans from other part of the planet was terrible. Terrible. Murder, genocide, rape, stealing things, domination. And that is what Khan knows. Mm-hmm. He knows that if you don't attack first, the people arriving will get your ass. And that's interesting because Marla, we've totally different because she's a woman who was born 200 years after first contact, and that just very, like, that contrast was really, really interesting. And I think it's like the whole thing about our constant fear of otherness right now, but Star Trek actually like that idea in Star Trek that you should always be marveling at disco and new things, right? Wanted to know more. I thought it's a great little, like, you know, Deus ex machina to like create some very interesting conversation. MC, anything to add on this?
No, I mean, you covered everything very well. I do think that, I mean, Marla, for the first few episodes, was treated as an outsider amongst the augments. So, I mean, I think, like, her actually advocating for, you know, another species not only reflects her as being, you know, a Federation citizen who's used to first contact, but as somebody who was, you know, out on the outside and had to prove themselves. And so she's trying to make sure that other people don't have to go through that too.
Hawk?
The only thing I wanted to bring up was, do you remember, like, I think it was in episode 2 when Dr. Lear was doing a log about Khan and that, and describing his, like, kind of his psychological, like, kind of state and that. She noted that, like, you know, in his reign, he only attacked when attacked.
It's true. Yeah.
So it's interesting that, like, you know, attack is definitely on his mind, but he definitely seems to need to be talked into it a little bit by Ivan and Ursula and that. But then again, it's weird, like, how, you know, his first instinct, you know, if they crash landed in that, his first instinct was that he considered that an attack.
Yeah, because he considered the land his.
Yeah.
That's his planet.
Yeah.
Why are you here? Get out of my lawn.
Yeah, no, that comment about, you know, being attacked, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Khan had a very broad idea of what being attacked meant. You know, not giving him what he wanted is being attacked.
Yeah. I'm feeling attacked. Well, it's definitely a test for Khan, right? It's a decision between war or wonder, first contact or first attack.
Yeah.
The arrival of the ship becomes a crucible for Khan's leadership, right? He wants to play the mirror universe first contact. Attack first and talk later, and exposes his inability to really see the potential of meeting an alien species. Meanwhile, we see Paolo that approaches the point with curiosity. Joachim, who wants to go to war, the young blood, right?
Yeah.
The women, particularly Marla and Mado, stand for reason and restraint, at least not attacking, right? And Ivan, as he always, enables violence. It wants to go and, like, murder everybody. Are the differing responses amongst the augments? What did you think it signal? Why did you think, like, they had so many different approach to the event? Deeper philosophical divides, or just different coding in their DNA? Where do you think this is going, MC?
Well, I think, you know, when you're talking about first contact versus first blood, you really have to just, like, look at, I mean, like, you've laid out all of the characters, and I do think, like, it does kind of go along, like, a generational divide. I do think that Ivan is amongst kind of, like, the older of the augments. He's like a contemporary of Khan's, and does seem to be somebody who was completely trained to be a, you know, physical, like, heavy, and so, you know, it's violence just all of the time, and you have all of these voices in Khan's head, and, you know, telling him what he's supposed to do, and he thinks that he's the one that has to make all of the decisions because he's Khan, and I think that that's something that's his downfall. The idea that it's his pride of him being in charge of everything. And I think that, certainly with this species that is proven to be, telepathic, so very different and in their own way, more powerful than the augments, that in and of itself is something that's, threatening, or something that, Khan could see as, provoking.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things going on, and I think that a lot of it will come down to the fact that as much as they're trying to make Khan be very sympathetic, he is somebody who was raised basically specifically to take over the world.
Yeah. Hawk?
Yeah, the same. It's like with the philosophical divides are amazing in this. Like I said, Paulo's perspective on it was amazing. He said, why are we wasting time in that fighting, these aliens, and that we have a much bigger war to win, which is basic survival.
The planet coming crashing on your face right now.
Yeah. And I like that it's more that, it's not some philosophical divide in that, it's basically what, augments and that seem to go into specialization in that, as, with adulthood and that, some are painters, some are artists and that, some of them are warriors and that, like Han and Ivan. So it's amazing to see the voices in that, coming through. Ivan and Ursula kind of reveal themselves as being a lot denser than any of the others, in their conversations as they're walking to the crash site. The comment about, did they attack the planet, and why would anybody attack a planet? Target practice?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not wrong.
Yeah, I guess not. But yeah. Han confuses me because he is, his intellect is kind of really revealed here in that, he really correctly assesses, everything he sees and that going, with this, it's like the crashed ship, he noted it broke into 12 pieces, which are on fire. He talked about how the trees were flattened by the sonic boom and that, it's like his intellect is up there. What was galling is that it reminded me of Marlo was the same voice in his ear in that, last episode, same. Khan went to war with, the worm species and that without having all the information at hand, right? He's doing the exact same thing again. It's like he just can't seem to help himself in that. She made this great comment about it. It's like, you know how to fight the battle, how to fight. I can't remember exactly how she turned it, but this is the only way you know how to approach this situation. And there's another perspective. I wish he'd kind of listened to her in that, because we find out that really he shouldn't have listened to her.
But he can't imagine that anything else would be superior to him. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's not that he can't understand the situation. He understands everything, but he's hardwired to think that there is nothing bigger, meaner, badder, more incredible than him. Whatever, even a thing that falls from the sky is no match. He is the top dog, Yeah,
that's what he was taught, the breed, obviously with augments and that, the breeding has something to do with it and that, but that's also what he was taught, I guess.
He also never experienced anything different until Kirk, and he's obsessed with Kirk. Mm-hmm. Obsessed, because even in Space Seed, actually, it's kind of a check. He's not being beaten by Kirk. It's just like, okay, I accept to do that. That's actually better for me, It's kind of like, it's murky. But the real problem is that he's a man from the 90s. Mm-hmm. And he was an augment. He was superior genetically and by his education and by everything to every single human on the planet. He never actually had to face anything telepathic, anything that has phasers, anything that cannot be killed with a rifle.
That's the thing I always kind of forget when I think about Khan and that, it's like they went into hibernation before anything, like before first contact and that. And there's this whole universe that he is just slowly kind of getting used to now, He
even didn't really lost on Earth. He took everybody and left. So I think that it's his arrogance is coming from a superiority complex that has never been proven wrong to him. Like really, he never lost until literally the Alborians. This is the first time, and even he's gonna tell you that he didn't really lose, did he? Yeah. What do you think about this, MC? Anything to add?
I think you've definitely you are covering quite a bit of just all of my thoughts, which was really surprising because you and I are usually kind of on the same wavelength of things. But yeah, no, I mean, Khan is somebody who's used to being the top dog, and I almost said God, and I mean in a way, kind of, because he is treated very cult-like reverence by the other augments, but here he's facing with people that he doesn't understand, and people who could probably at very least mentally kick his ass, and that's not a position he wants to be in. So
for sure, he's lucky these people are not Romulans.
I know.
Hawk, anything to add?
I don't think so. I think that kind of sums everything up. Yeah, I'm good.
I am saddened by the limits of your imagination. That line. Marla trying to recount first contact to Khan, who cannot see the potential in meeting another alien species. She's telling him that one choice that Zephram Cochrane made that changed the course of human history and literally the life of every single person on the planet. This is a devastating line. Like when she said that, I was like, oh, wow. What did you think of that moment, MC?
I am really loving what this show is doing for Marla. I know a lot of people will say that this show is kind of redeeming Khan and actually showing his, dissent and giving him proper motivations. But I think more than anything, Marla's the hero, and Marla's the one who's getting everything shown in terms of her motivations and everything. And I think instead of being like this dark princess who wants to be with Khan, no, she is such an idealist. She's even more of an idealist than Kirk, where she's somebody who wants to see the good in everybody, and so she's willing to even see the good in Khan, somebody who she knows did a genocide. And she's trying to explain to him here exactly where that idealism comes from her, in that it is the whole idea of strange new worlds, new civilizations that she's grown up with, and that's kind of what she's experiencing now. In a strange way, she has made first contact with the augments. It is a temporal first contact rather than a planetary one, but she's assimilating herself to their customs and just to living with them, and she wants to be able to share that with them, in that we can accept this other species no matter the differences.
Hawk?
Yeah, he never really grew up on those ideals, did he? And that, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. He was taught one way in that. And it's it's very, Marla has this tone of sadness in her voice when she says, it's the limits of your imagination, His intellect obviously is formidable in that, but there's a roadblock in its ability to expand, even being witness to everything he's already seen at this point. There is still in his mind that roadblock, to expanding how he approaches these situations. And that Marla is obviously that voice in that, but if he's not listening, then, what's the point in that? But then again, it's like he almost needs to, he's that kid who needs to touch the stove to know it's hot, right?
Yeah, which is, a great way to learn.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Like, I know as a woman, very often we don't get to experience the bad thing and to have our own, learning experience from touching the stove. Like, it's like, you do not touch this, end of it. Like, no, like, sometimes you need to put your hand on the stove and like see what's up,
That's how I learned not to play with light sockets.
See, this is but I think that, it's interesting to me because I felt that in this conversation we had like the two extreme of a spectrum. Like, Mala is way too idealist. She's like, let's do first contact. I was like, you don't know who these people are. Like, you were lucky that our first contact was with Vulcans and not Klingons or Romulans. Like, it could have been Romulus and then you would have been screwed. End of it, And Khan also, like, they're both not unable, but unwilling to see that the other one may have a point. And they're both really going into their own, like, kind of dead end of, no, we're gonna go and help them. You don't know those people. You don't know them at all. Why were they there? You don't know if they're responsible for exploring the planet. Like, you have no idea. So I really like the first contact tale also retold by somebody from that era, because it's like something they learned in the history book, and the fact that Zephram Cochrane was kind of a dick, which we knew.
I really love it in that First Contact, the movie, they did play it like it was a surprise to the audience, but now we're finding out that everybody knew that Zephram Cochrane was a drunk, and just kind of, there's still the reverence because, he was a great man, and it actually well reflects the line from Riker at the end of the movie, where it's like, don't try to be a great man, just be a man, or something like that. Yeah. So, but I did appreciate, it took me a moment where I was just like, are they retconning something? But I'm like, no, actually, brilliantly, they are not retconning anything. It works perfectly.
I like the fact that she's like, oh yeah, he strapped himself to a rocket, basically, to make money.
Yes.
That was his main. But he was able to see the opportunity in First Contact, that opportunity would be an opportunity for everybody else on the planet. And I feel it was kind of a jab to like everything that's going on right now with space exploration. And I was like, I see what you're doing. But I really like the fact that the measure for humanity in this conversation is imagination. I thought it was really interesting because it Star Trek flirts with that point very often, but doesn't actually put it on the table, is being able to see the opportunity in something good happening sometime. What did you think of this central point around imagination, MC?
It definitely speaks to the hope of the Federation, because I think there is nothing greater than imagination. It is the idea of, if we can dream it, we can do it. And I think that is something that has always driven Starfleet. It's like you have Voyager ending up in the frickin' Delta Quadrant. And it's like, you know what? We can get home. It might take 70 years, but we could get home. And they frickin' do it in 7 because, of transwarp, whatever, the show's ending. and that is always been going on with the show, this whole just idealistic hope that goes on. You only get to that through imagination, and a failure of imagination is when you only think that there is one possibility, and it's the worst thing that can happen, and it means that I need to do something terrible. And that's kind of what's going on here with Khan and Marla.
Yeah, it's also a lack of belief in science.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
there are options. Hawk, what did you think of imagination?
The limits of imagination. Oh, I mean, like the story, it has that point. It's like, he took, Zeppelin Cochrane took a weapon of war and mass destruction and turned it into a vehicle of expansion and opening up the limits of where, human beings could go. And again, serves to emphasize Khan's lack of imagination in that, the highest his imagination climbs is building an empire. That he sits on the throne of. That's where his head is at. She made some comment about how even the adulation of his troops is not enough, and that it's got to be his empire, his kingdom.
His arena.
Yeah.
And I would actually argue that his whole idea of an empire is actually very much lacking in imagination, because it is like this whole... He's been trained to believe that he is superior to everybody. If he had imagination, he might realize that he's not, and that there were better things to do with his powers.
He's Robinson Crusoe, right? Who, like, when he arrives on that island, tried to like rebuild civilization, right? Like with the time and all this, and like trying to like keep his little habits of life until Friday comes, and then there's this idea. I read the French. Okay, I don't know if anybody has read Friday or The Wildlife. It's a French retelling of Robinson Crusoe, which is a very interesting book. I'm
actually reading Robinson Crusoe right now.
Hey, we'll read this one after, and then and so it's the whole point of like, well, you can try to build like your civilization and your society to a place that has none, if you want to. Like, for sure, but that's not gonna make you happier than what you were before. And also, if you're by yourself and with like no ways of actually building the whole thing, what's the point? Like, you can actually do something totally different if you want to, but Robinson Crusoe doesn't have that imagination until like things happen, right? He tries to like keep wearing his clothes and stuff like this when you don't have to. And I feel that's really what's happening with Khan. He's trying to rebuild that thing where he was powerful, and he lacks the total ability of just maybe let's do something else. Maybe just not have a supreme ruler. Why not? But he's not able to see that. Also, I think he comes again from a time where he never learned humility. Like, I think the Vulcan coming to Earth really taught a lot of people humility.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
God, yeah.
Yeah, being like, oh, yeah, okay, we're monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the opening to, like, the galaxy, and I think it's also, like, what a lot of our fellow humans like of, like, understanding is that we're not much. We're not much, and if you expand the food, the food pyramid in the
if we're suddenly not the top of the food chain.
Yeah, if you like expand the food chain, suddenly you realize that the Klingons could wipe you out.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about our friends, the Elborians.
Yes.
Okay, the final act brings the new players, telepathic aliens, the Elborians, which we don't know. It's a first contact for us too. They expose the limits of Khan's reason. His paranoia peaks. Someone is giving them a position. No, they're telepathic. Like more, I told you so. And the augments dismiss even their telepathy as sorcery. Only after defeat does Khan start recognizing their possible value, accepting survival on their terms. They reveal the Elborians. Del Mondo, that's the name of the Elborian.
Yeah.
Reveals to him the existence of underwater caverns, and that makes a radical shift in how Khan is going to understand survival. Okay, first of all, what did you think of the attack on the Elborians? How did you think this thing was gonna go, MC?
I am not at all surprised that this was kind of the first reaction. Like, of course it is, because as much as we're seeing these people as a lot more sympathetic, they are very violent and they like to attack things. And we've seen that in the last couple of episodes where it's like, let's go take out the worms. And this is like, let's go take out the sorcery aliens. And there are people from, what is it, like 200, 300 years in the past, and they are just completely unwilling to accept how things have changed. Like, they scoff at the things that Marla says. And it's like, Marla has been somebody who has been living in this world. So yeah, she's like explaining, it's like, yeah, telepaths are a thing. These other aliens have like different, capabilities than us. But for the augments, it's like, not only are they from a time before first contact, but they're from a time when there was nobody better than the augments, because even amongst humans, they were considered special. And by seeing these Elborians, they could see it's like, oh, yeah, we're not really all that special, which is something they didn't have to deal with on the Enterprise, because they was all just regular humans except for Spock, and they didn't really have that close of a dealing with Spock. It's not until Wrath of Khan that Spock really gets into the shit with them.
Yeah, and they kill him.
And they do kill him.
Hawk.
I love that this interaction with them it played out exactly as Marla predicted in that, because she was observant in that. She's like, why they're not screaming? They're not talking at all. Even the ones who are in pain aren't screaming in that, and it's like Starfleet training kicks in and that. It's like creatures that don't vocalize their emotions or their thoughts are probably most likely telepathic. And again, yeah, Khan and the rest of the augments, they dismiss it. Ivan called it sorcery.
Ivan, our best friend.
Best friend. It's Khan's reaction at the end that is the most interesting in that. It's like he's like, it's like, again, I didn't listen. I've encountered something that is beyond what I'm capable of, and yet, what does he do? He just like sends everybody back because he still cares about his people and that. And he's like, it's like, I'm not going to die cowering in a bush and that. He's like, if they're going to attack my mind and that, then I'm going to attack them back with my mind.
Yeah, but even this, the audacity, like, this is insane. Like, they literally unscrewed 2 pieces, every single one of your rifle, from afar, and made you unable to hear anything, and like make half of your men just totally lost their mind, and you're like, no, my mind.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Khan.
Like, the audacity, that's crazy. It doesn't even like wait a moment to like regroup, think, ask Marla, find out another. No, it just goes in, and it's fascinating to me. Like, I'm very happy they got their ass kicked, but I'm unhappy that like Khan didn't learn anything.
No, but it just kind of unveiled a new level of a kind of like psychopathic ego that he does possess. His defeat. Retreat never enters into his mind. If I'm defeated, I'll be defeated on my own terms.
Yeah, he just like keeps shifting, right? He didn't lose. He like
changed the goalposts.
Yeah,
I go back to our conversation about Richter and that. They could have put Richter down with the hypo spray, but that was a failure and that. And it's like, Khan's like, no, I'll do it in that, because it's like, death is something he just needs to face head on.
Well, actually, I would say he didn't win the battle, but he does get the information about the underwater caverns, which for me begs the question: what's the end goal of the Elborians here? Like, how did they know these existed? What are they doing here? Like, there's a lot of questions that Khan is not asking that I think he should be asking. What did you think of this, MC?
I think this is probably where I was really starting to think it's like, oh, they had something to do with SETI Alpha 6, because they seem to know what's going on around here. And, obviously, SETI Alpha 5 from Space Seed and SETI Alpha 5 from Wrath of Khan are, like, really different. So it's like, did they, like, is this their version of terraforming the planet? Like, what's going on? And I think that, I don't know, I don't trust these guys. So I definitely, I think that this is definitely deepening the story, because this is a completely new factor. Yeah, we have no idea about. I actually love that they put this in, because with prequels like this, it's always like, oh, well, I know exactly where we're going. Mm-hmm. But this, we don't know what this has to do with the story. And I trust these writers to actually make it make sense. And I love that we can have that bit of surprise.
Yeah. Hawk?
Trust keeps coming up a lot in this, and I think this is one of those. This is in this series. I think Khan has been confronted with something that he is not really well versed in, which is trust. Trust in other people to not want to subjugate and destroy them, and that. By the end of his encounter with Del Mondo, and that I think he has his first kind of revelation about it, doesn't he? The way
I don't know. My empire will never come to be. Do you think it's like an actual like humility and resignation? Like, what is it?
I don't think it's either. I think he still believes it. He's just, he's being an emo bitch at the moment.
Yeah. But the fact that he encountered something way more powerful than him and that, but it wasn't, at the end in that, it wasn't something aggressive. It was something that actually tried to help him, because they both, the alien, like Delando, realizes that they're all in the same situation now, and they all have common needs and common whatever in that. Right now, survival for both of them on this hostile world is paramount, and he seems to, it may have taken him giving Khan the location of it and that. He didn't have to do that, right? I mean, they could have just wiped them the augments out at that point, and they had like 100 miles of water underneath, and that would have kept them going for generations.
I don't know, because literally first episode of Discovery, you have random people, which is Philippa Georgiou and Michael Burnham, but go and give water to the aliens because their planet had shift and they had lost access to water, and they come and they go and reactivate a well. I think that for me, there's I have many questions about the Alborians. One, are they telling this because they know the augment will die from what will happen, and they kind of want to save them from death? Yeah. So they give them water. Again, we see it over and over and over again in Star Trek, with Starfleet going and helping the local population who's pre-warp to find a way to survive. We see it in Discovery several times. We see it in TNG. We see it in several things, and it often has to do with water, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
The one with the whistling, that's also about getting the rain. The first episode of Discovery is reopening a well. You have Children of the Planet, where there's the whole question about these guys in the desert that have no rain anymore.
Remember TNG, The Last Duty, when Picard and Wesley are trapped on that planet and it's the only source of water surrounded by some weird force field?
Yes. So I think that I'm not gonna say my first reaction was oh, Del Mondo is from basically, imagine Starfleet. They crashed on that planet. They meet pre-war people. We're shooting at them with rifle. They know the planet has been knocked out of orbit. They know what's going to happen, and they're hey, stop shooting. You take all your people and go to that underwater cavern over there, because that's the only way you're gonna survive. It's a very Starfleet move to me.
Yeah.
They could have wiped them off, and they didn't. And I think the Elborians are gonna fix their ship and they're gonna get the fuck out of here, or somebody's gonna come pick them up, because most probably they have beacons or something, like, I don't know. So I wonder, and for me, I am like, maybe Marla is not dead, maybe she left with the Elborians.
That'd be something.
But yeah, I'm really interested in where this gonna go. Any more ideas about what's the end goal of the Elborians in that show? And see,
I think you've got way more faith in things than I do. I don't think these guys are getting out of there alive. I think that if their ship does get fixed, then Khan would try to take it, and it'll end up getting destroyed in some sort of battle. Because obviously we have to have the crew, the augments staying on the planet without means of escape, and I don't think that they would allow any group to leave without them.
I don't know, because like Connie's like, it's my empire, it's my planet, it's my place.
That's true. It's like I remember when Delano asked him, "And is that your wish?" And he's like, "That is my command."
Yeah, I do like the idea of Marla still being alive, though, because one, we have enough dead wife energy. We don't need more.
Thank you.
And I do think Khan is the type of asshole who, that if Marla left him, he would say that she was dead.
Absolutely. That's also what I believe. And I think that, I don't know, I'm making shit up, but I feel like if the Elborian, like, imagine it's a Starfleet ship crashing on the planet. There's like 70 dudes with rifles, and they're like, okay, sure, shoot at us, like, whatever, like, go find water. They're gonna fix the ship, somebody's gonna come help them, and then they're gonna get the fuck out of here. And they're gonna tell the people, do you want to come? Like, do you want to get out of here? And I feel that Khan is the kind of guy who would be like, no, this is my empire. This is my territory. This is where I'm supposed to be, and you can't leave. And Marla would be the only one being like, fuck you. Fuck the horse you rode in with. Like, I'm out. I'm taking the ship out of here.
Especially if she's massively pregnant at the time.
Yes.
Exactly. And the planet's falling apart.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think there's like, so for me, that thing is really opening a lot of possible storyline, which
I like that possibility. Yeah. I'm not sure it's going to go that way, but I would be happy if it was.
I'm pretty sure they're not getting off that planet alive.
Oh, okay. So I'm the only one being positive here.
Yeah, pretty
okay.
Yes.
Okay, no.
The rest of us are having a failure of imagination.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Last thought about this episode. Do you think we finally see Khan's myth unraveling? Where do you think the next episode is going to bring us? Hawk, we're going to go reverse order.
Next episode, not sure, which has been the nicest thing about the series, and that is like I really can't predict like the twists and that. Even though it's like it's dealing with a canon event that we know where it ends, and that I still don't know where exactly it gets to in that, because we have so much to unpack. What did the sensor logs and that Spock took actually reveal? How the whole thing with them being underground now, the Elborians, it's like there's so many possibilities that have been introduced into the story. It's like I don't really see where it's going to go. This episode was another fantastic addition to it.
MC?
So in Space Seed and the first 4 episodes, we are seeing like the very proud Khan, who's, just kind of being very charismatic and, very full of himself. But I think from this episode onward, it is Captain Ahab getting his leg bitten off by Moby Dick.
Yes!
So we are going to be seeing this denigration of Khan as he was, because he's not in a good place in Wrath of Khan. Like, it does, it goes downhill very quickly in that, but he wasn't starting off pretty good. So I think we're going to see that fast and hard coming now, where instead of like this idea of, oh, we're going to build a grand empire, or, away from the Federation. No, he got to find out that he's not able to do that. So...
Yeah, I really like this episode. I really like that they added that alien species. I love that we don't know anything about them. It kept like my imagination pumping. Like I'm really looking forward to what is going to happen. Also, I like the fact that basically in the Wrath of Khan, we see almost nothing of Ceti Alpha 5. We see what Chekhov, who I don't think is a reliable narrator at all, like comes back with. And I feel like we see that very small part of Ceti Alpha 5, right? In that, like...
It's like a cave, isn't it?
No, it's a like a pod. Like
I can't remember. Yeah. I knew it was something covered.
I think it's more or less pod. That's how I imagine it.
Yeah,
but that means that they're like full places that... like they didn't even touch. We don't know. Is there more people? Are the Alborians still there? Is there what happened? And I really like the fact that they're able to add all these like question marks on a map that I thought was all known and all explored already. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode. Yeah. It is time for mailbag. There's hailing frequencies are open or something. We have a sound too here.
Hailing frequencies are open.
It's like really the Ceti Alpha 5 Survivor podcast. Like
it definitely is. Yeah.
the outline is all over the place. Okay, who wants to take Emily Ree? Hawk, can you take Emily Ree?
Sure. Emily Ree wrote, I'm not sure what I expected would happen, but telepathic aliens crashing on the planet and leading Khan to water wasn't it. Not sure where this is going. The contrast between some of the colonists and Sulu's words that genetic augmentations brought the worst in humanity is enlightening. As usual, Rosalind Lear is her fabulous self.
We stand Rosalind Lear. MC, can you take N.Y. Riley?
M.Y. Riley wrote, it's fascinating seeing in action what MacGyver's said about the limits in Khan's thinking. Imagine if he had asked the Alborians for help for transport to a safer planet. I sure hope Spock didn't mess up the readings. I'm still hooked on the series.
Yes, and I'm going to take Cassie. Cassie wrote, this was my favorite episode yet. The sound design, voice acting, and writing all did an incredible job of invoking a truly alien experience. I can't wait to find out what actually happened to the planet. Spock making a mistake seems unlikely, but who knows? All my theories have been proven wrong thus far, so clearly not me. Can you take Rob G. Hawk, please?
Yes, Rob G. wrote, this show continues to fire on all cylinders. We are starting to see how this man could turn into the Khan we know from Wrath of Khan, and I'm enjoying the journey far more than I expected. But was I the only one who thought the actor said El-Orion when the Alborians were introduced?
No, I did too. I did too.
Yeah.
That was confusing as F for a minute.
And MC, can you take us home with Mars?
Mars wrote, I really love how much depth these audio dramas are given to the story we all know and love. Can't wait to hear how it all wraps up.
Yeah, and this is the end of a review of Episode 5, Imagination's Limit of Star Trek Khan. Khan! Follow us, hit like, sub, hit the bell, etc. We will be back next week for actually a special episode. It's not going to be Khan, right?
Nope. It is going to be a review of Lower Decks Season 1, a trip back into the past to our favorite shows.
Yes, I'm not going to be here, but I know it's going to be fun. We'll see you the week after that to continue reviewing Star Trek Khan.
So 6 and 7 in 2 weeks.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Sarcastic Vulcan salute.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.